Hello, Black Hill Studios of the Arts friends and family. Today I'm going to actually talk about a composer. And at the end of this video, I will ask a few questions, and I really want you guys to think about these and talk to your students with them at home and see what they think and have them. And there's a fun project that you guys can do at home. All right, Johann Sebastian Bach. Johann Sebastian Bach was born on March 21st, 1685, into a large family of musicians in the town of Eisenach, Germany. Sorry if I mispronounce things. For many years, the Bach family, uncles, aunts, cousins, brothers, and sisters, had sung and played musical instruments since Johann Sebastian's father was the town organist and a court musician. It was natural for him to teach his young son to play the violin. Johann Sebastian Bach played often and eagerly looked forward to the Bach family's annual reunion and musical festival, where all the Bachs gathered to produce beautiful music. The town of Eisenach was very proud of its fine choir boys, who sang during church masses and wedding celebrations. Young Johann Sebastian eventually became one of these choir boys and was renowned for his beautiful soprano voice. When he was only 10 years old, Johann Sebastian's mother and father passed away. The young boy was sent to live with his older brother, Johann Christoph, who was an organist in the town Ordorf. While attending school, Johann Sebastian Bach took lessons from his brother on the clavier, a small keyboard instrument similar to a piano. Young Johann Sebastian was eager to learn all that he could, but his older brother, Johann Christoph, thought that Johann Sebastian was moving too quickly through his lessons and that some of the music was too difficult for him to master. One day, Johann Sebastian saw his brother bring home a large book of church music. Desperate to learn material, Johann Sebastian begged his brother to teach him the music, but Johann Christoph thought the pieces were much too difficult for his younger brother. Fortunately, Johann Sebastian saw where Johann Christoph carefully placed the precious music. When everyone was asleep and all was quiet, Johann Sebastian tiptoed downstairs and removed the book from its cupboard. When he reached his bedroom, Johann Sebastian began to copy, by the light of the moon, each note of the music into his own notebook. When he could write no longer and his fingers were numb, Johann Sebastian carefully returned the book of music. Night after night, whenever the moon shone brightly, Johann Sebastian worked hard copying the music. Oftentimes his brother wondered why Johann Sebastian was so sleepy in the mornings, but Johann Sebastian kept his secret, and finally, 6 months later, when all the music was written down, Johann Sebastian eagerly ran to the clavier and played endlessly. Whenever Johann Christoph left the house, Johann Sebastian played the music his brother had thought too difficult for him. Even when Johann Christoph finally discovered his little brother playing the stolen music, he still thought the music was too difficult for Johann Sebastian. When he was 15 years old, Johann Sebastian had to leave his brother's crowded household. Johann Sebastian walked 200 miles to Lüneburg to attend St. Michael's School, where he sang in the choir in exchange for his room and board. He also continued to study the violin and clavier while also learning to play the harpsichord. But it was the organ, the queen of instruments, which captured Johann Sebastian's musical soul. Johann Sebastian traveled many miles on foot to listen to and study with master organists, including Rankin and Buxtehude. When he was 18 years old, Johann Sebastian obtained a position as an organist and choir master at a new church in Arnstadt. It was then that he pledged to write music in honor of God alone. Johann Sebastian did not want worldly fame. He only wanted to compose and play music in the name of the Lord. In fact, at the top of his music bore the heading, "In the name of the Lord," or "To the glory of God alone." Johann Sebastian left his position in Arnstadt to become a music master in Mühlhausen, where the people of that parish promised him more time to compose. Here Johann Sebastian was married, and he and his young wife, Maria Bach, eventually had 7 children, 3 of whom became famous composers. From Mühlhausen, Bach moved to Weimar, where he worked happily for 9 years under the Duke of Weimar, a deeply religious man. In 1717, His fame as a composer and organist renowned throughout Germany, Bach was asked by Prince Leopold of Cothen to be his court organist and orchestra master. A large portion of Bach's compositions was religious music, including many cantatas for the church. He also wrote many suites for the clavichord and harpsichord and many fugues for the organ and piano. From his studies of Italian instrumental music, particularly the work of the Italian composer Antonio Vivaldi, Bach was prompted to write many concertos and sonatas, including the 6 Brandenburg concertos. Additionally, he wrote the Well-Tempered Clavier, a collection of compositions for the instruction and appreciation of music. In 1720, Bach's wife died, and a year later he married Anna Magdalena, the daughter of a court trumpeter who much inspired his work. 3 years later, Bach and his family moved to Leipzig, where he was the music director at the St. Thomas School. Despite all his teaching and family responsibilities, he eventually had 20 children, many of whom became musicians. Bach continued to write one masterpiece after another. The Christmas Oratorio, the Goldberg Variations, and his last monumental work, The Art of the Fugue. The many years of overstraining his eyes in poor light while writing and copying music took its toll in 1749, when Bach became totally blind. A year later, Bach died of a stroke. Because Bach spent most of his life in one area of Germany, little of his music was known throughout the world. It wasn't until nearly 100 years later when 2 composers, Felix Mendelssohn and Robert Schumann, rediscovered the wonders of his music and shared them with the world. The famous 18th century composer Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart once declared Johann Sebastian Bach the father of all music. Now guys, I really want you to think about this. And I want you to listen to this story as I make another video about the questions I'm going to ask you and the project that you're going to do. Ooh, fun project time! Yay! Okay, so the materials you're going to need. A portrait of Johann Sebastian Bach. So this is him. And you can probably find it on Google. White construction paper, crayons or markers, scissors, glue, writing paper, and a pencil. And I'm sure a lot of you kids have that at home. So here's the activity. Here's our activity. Find and read as much information about Johann Sebastian Bach as possible. 2. Cut out the picture above or draw your own portrait of Bach. 3. Glue Bach's portrait in the center of a piece of drawing paper, then draw and color objects and scenes around the portrait that you associate with the life of Bach. 4. On a separate sheet of paper, write about Bach's life, including some information about each of the objects or scenes that you have illustrated in your paper. And then 5. Glue the information you have written to the back of your drawing. Here we go. And I will take a picture of this and put it on our video.